up, y'all? It's me, Nate Almighty, and I'm back with another Power Book 3, Raising Kanan, Season 3 theory and prediction video. And today, my theory explains why Palomar and Kanan had a secret son, and his name is Andre Coleman. I will explain why Rock is the biggest reason why she kept this a secret, and I'll also explain why Famous's new arrest with her gun will be the reason why we see her return in season 4 of Raising Kanan, either pregnant with Dre or holding a young baby Dre in her arms. And we will be making a lot of connections between OG Power and the Raising Kanan timeline. This video is going to be another banger, so go ahead and like this video and subscribe to the channel so y'all get this fire every day. And since you know you love this content, you can support this channel by sending a donation to the Cash App JPeterson91 or blessing your brother with a super thanks right above the comment section in your phone. Thanks in advance. Now, without further ado, let's get to it. All right now, people, so let's break it down like this. As we all know, part of Kanan's storyline in season 2 was the short-lived love affair between Kanan and Palomar. This relationship began after Palomar seduced Kanan, who at the time had been dating her daughter, Corinne, putting Kanan in the player/City Boy Hall of Fame early on in his young career. And we could tell Kanan was falling for her as she was the more mature and more experienced woman, paralleling the relationship between his parents, Raquel, and the recently deceased Detective Malcolm Howard. So when Rock found out about this relationship, she did what a mother was supposed to do: stop her son and his predator from remaining in contact, thus resulting in Rock threatening Palomar's life. She then made the smart decision to leave Kanan alone. And now, after season 3 has ended, we get almost no mention of Palomar or her daughter, besides the fact that they moved and Paul took over their apartment. They seemingly got up and vanished overnight, with their place being taken over by Paul. Now, we all know, for the most part, Power usually completes every character's arc, no matter how insignificant they may be. So the question is, where the hell is this woman? I believe she will make her return next year, and she will be pregnant or will have just given birth to a baby Andre Coleman, and may also be forced by the police to explain herself for the gun her daughter gave Famous that eventually led to the death of Freddie. Because as we all know, they already ran the ballistics on the gun, or Famous wouldn't be in jail at the end of the season. Now let's expound on this theory and look at all the moving parts that make this work. For starters, can anyone recall Palomar and Kanan ever, even once, talking about wearing protection while they were doing their thing? Nobody likes condoms, let's be real. And any man who bed many women in his lifetime, like myself, will tell you that almost no women ever tell men to strap up. You gotta put your own life in your own hands with some of these women, man. With some of these chiquitas. And women will never admit this either. So they definitely were doing it wrong. And let's remember, this is the early 90s. Not as many Planned Parenthood centers in New York City at this time, like the way they are on every corner in the hood today. Plus, unlike in today's time, back then, women were less likely to go to any place like this because they didn't believe in terminating your pregnancy. Even sex workers would be pregnant, still work, have the baby, and still get back to work and get that yaper. And when it comes to Rock, this is the biggest reason why Palomar would decide to just relocate and get away from the Thomas family. She could have gotten pregnant, wanted to keep her kid, and would move out, fearing Rock would harm her and her kids over Kanan, and rightfully so, because she would have. And after having Dre, she would decide she needs a life change. By this point, okay, Corinne would likely have gone off to college and probably permanently cut Palomar off, and rightfully so, okay? And after Palomar gives birth to Dre, she wouldn't want her son to be like his dad and his family. But because she's not rich, she ends up being a born-again Christian and just moving to another section of Queens. Possibly, we find out she was dealing with another guy while she was dealing with Kanan, and just lets the other guy assume maybe, if Dre grew up with some type of father, that Dre is his son instead, right? Right? But because of the gun that has to do with Famous, okay? The cops will have her come in and she will have to explain herself. We could see a scenario where Palomar then runs into Rock out in the street or leaving the police precinct, right? Or maybe even Famous goes to court and Palomar has to point in the stand, okay? But we could see a scenario where Palomar runs into Rock out in the street, right? And Rock sees her pregnant or carrying a young Dre in her arms and suggests she keeps her mouth shut if she knows what's good for her, if that's Kanan's baby. In a similar fashion to the warning Ronnie gave Pranessa in season 3, making it so that Kanan never even knows he is threatening his own son and granddaughter in OG power. And he never even knew Palomar had his baby. And he'll be distracted by everything going on, including the pregnancy of Crystal. I know some foolish people may be thinking, okay, Kay and Palomar are both darker skinned, so it can't work that way, right? Right? Because Dre is lighter, I guess, right? Well, here's some news for that ass. Many black people have themselves or family members who have one or two dark-skinned parents and one or two light-skinned parents, and their kid is still born of a lighter shade. Now, if they're both lighter shade and then the child is born darker, that's another story. But on the reverse end, it's definitely possible. Black genetics frequently produce every shade of brown within the color spectrum. And for those who say Dre's mom is too light in OG power to be Palomar in the future, well, shows make connections like this all the time and show older and younger versions of people with darker or lighter shades when it comes to black people. For example, our jukebox is darker than the jukebox in OG power. And these are facts, because they weren't hired specifically for how much their complexions match. And some good theories have also been floating around in regards to Crystal being Dre's mom, right? Right? Although plausible, I still don't think Jukebox is done with Crystal. And in season 4, we're gonna see her spank Crystal boots. And her pregnancy, that will likely be a secret from everyone at that time, will likely be ended at that point, because Jukebox is going to really thrash this woman, causing even more friction between Jukebox and Kanan for the future. Dre is Kanan's secret son with Palomar, and her fear of Rock led her to move away and become a born-again virgin. While at the same time, he grew up in the same part of New York City as his own daddy, Kanan Stark.